When Martin Luther King first came to Chicago, the Chicago Commission on Human Relations asked me to go out to Marquette Park to monitor for them a march that was taking place, an open housing march. Well, it was clear before that where we stood. We had certainly met with Dr. King. It was known that I was sympathetic to open housing and that our Jewish Council on Urban Affairs was interested in open housing. But I decided I would help the Chicago Commission on Human Relations that day and go out to Marquette Park. I took my 12-year-old son with me. We sat by the curb. The marchers came past, Martin Luther King and hundreds of his followers. And people on the sidewalk started throwing rocks and hurling epithets at the marchers. Something happened. I got up, my son and I holding hands, and we walked into the middle of the street and started marching with Dr. King. Something happened at that moment that said, you can't be an observer. You've got to be a participant. You've got to go across the street. And that's what I did. One of the things that makes me not only Jewish but a rabbi is that I feel people have to, at times in their lives, do things that are beyond their own self-interest. Do things that envision what is right and what is wrong. You know, it's very easy to say, I'm a good person and do the things that are easy and convenient for me to do and feel comfortable doing that. It's much more difficult for me to say, or for any person to say, these are not easy things for me to do. These are not things that are in terms of that are good in terms of my own self-interest, but are good in terms of a greater interest. I think people ought to get involved in the JCUA because they have a vision, because they have an understanding that more is at stake than their own self-interest, because they realize that Judaism is concerned not only with its own survival and with the territory overseas, but with the welfare of the world in which we live and the people of the world in which we live. I think it's important to understand that the people who have been opposed to our task have not been bad people, have not been evil people. They've been people who have not seen how it is important to create a world in which there is justice. You know, the book of Deuteronomy very beautifully and very prophetically says, justice, justice shalt thou pursue. And the rabbis have always had discussions about what does that double use of the word justice mean. Some of the commentaries said it means justice for the litigants on both sides of an issue, justice for the judges and justice for the oppressed. I always like to say something a little bit different. It's easy to say justice. The second justice is to recognize how hard it is to really put your words into practice. I think people tire. I think their energies flag. It's easy to be enthusiastic about something at the very beginning, but to over a period of so many years maintain a constant stream of affection and commitment, and these are sacrifices. The people that have supported the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs have had hundreds of other causes that have clawed at them for support, and that the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs has been able to renew the commitment of so many very committed people in a population that does not have that many committed people, I think is a remarkable thing. I am proud of the council because it has survived. And surviving and talking about justice has not been an easy thing these past 50 years. Aren't we doing it now? Aren't the questions that we're asking right now opening the discussion? If people listen, Jeremiah used to lament that having eyes they see not and having ears they hear not. Well, we live in a world where people do have eyes and they do have ears, and they have to open their minds to what their eyes are seeing and what their ears are hearing, and that is that we have some important tasks that confront us. Environmental tasks, economic tasks, social tasks. These are things that we must not be afraid to face. So many people tell me that they've dealt with these problems and become paralyzed because they don't have the answers. Well, the important thing is we try to find answers. That's what our Jewish Council on Urban Affairs has been doing. It's never that simple. It's never an easy thing. But what you do is you wrestle through the moral issues. That's what you do. And then that's what the meaning of justice is. Again, I suppose that's why I like to say justice, justice. Because there's one thing that's easy to conceive, an absolute idea, but then how do you realize it? That's justice. I was talking to somebody the other day about marching in Selma, Alabama with Martin Luther King. And in truth, the historic things, the things that people regard as historic things, are a very minor part of what you're really about. Selma, Alabama was a day or two of our lives. It wasn't 50 years of our lives. Any particular incident that lasts a day or two is hardly descriptive of the sum total of the really vital things we do to help people. I mean, Selma was dramatic. It was a flare. But the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs is not a flare. It's the constant pilot light. What I'm really proud of is that we have been unafraid to confront power structures. And that's not been an easy thing to do. We've done it both in the city and nationally. We've said these are programs to power people that have affected the poor adversely. We've been concerned with giving poor people, powerless people, a voice. We've helped them determine their own fate. And we've done this with a certain faith on our part that has been most encouraging and has been a blessing to us and I hope to the people that we've helped.